about all that noise. Now, my little black book. My little black book is what I keep track of. Information from my cooking channel, my ASMR channel. I keep track of shout-outs and, background music from my cooking channel, or ideas and stuff like that. Recipes, ideas for my ASMR, my cooking channel, whatever. I can put some coleslaw on top of my French fries, because that's so good that way. Wow, a lot of coleslaw here. So anyway, that's what I do. Now you can take some of this gravy, pour the gravy over top of the coleslaw and the fries. Oh, that's good. Now you probably think, Mark, is that a Canadian thing? No, but it's something I've been doing since I was a kid. When my mom made mashed potatoes, I mash them all out, put the coleslaw on top, and the vegetables and the gravy on top. As far as that's concerned, it's all going the same place anyway. Some people don't like to have their food touching. I'm not like that at all. I don't really care. So in my little black book here, I keep track of ideas for my ASMR channel. One of those ideas was memorable events in my lifetime. Like my lifetime, and I'm not talking about the sinking of the Titanic, I'm not that old, but things that happened that I remember as a child. A lot of things that happened in my lifetime, I remember, but I'm talking about things that I remember that affected me. Like the moon landing, 9/11, JFK assassination, that sort of thing. So one of my viewers had suggested that because it's the anniversary of JFK's assassination, it'll be 60 years in November. Well, it's like November 22nd, right? And I thought, yeah, that person's right, 60 years, wow. And I remember that because I was 6.5 years old at the time. And believe it or not, I remember quite a bit about it. I remember it was Friday. And sometimes on Friday we got out of school early because they'd have like teachers' meetings and stuff like that. And this is one of those Fridays. And I came home and my cartoons were not on TV. There was just all this news was on there. I'm going to show you a picture of our TV. And this picture is the TV that we had in Saskatoon when I was a kid. My mom took a picture of, I don't know why, but I'm glad she did. But the image that's on the TV has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. But it was a big stereo console with a black and white TV in the middle, turntable on the left side, AM, FM radio, and all the buttons on the right side. It's like a stereo with a black and white TV, and we had one channel. So I come home from school early. No cartoons. No Yogi Bear. No Huckleberry Hound. No And my mom's watching the news. And news isn't normally on that time of day. But she says something bad happened. The president was shot. I thought, what? Who? She said the president was shot. I didn't understand that. I said, well, who is this person? She said, well, he's the president of the United States. It's very important. And he got shot. Now, she got a little bit mixed up in a fact. She told me they were on their way to the airport, the president and his wife. Now, maybe that's what you heard at that time. So, believe it or not, my friends, I can still remember the visuals I had in my head. Because the airport around Saskatoon, you drove and then you're out in the middle of nowhere, then you get to the airport. I'm sure by now they've built all that up, but so I had that vision in my head. Of somebody driving to the airport in Saskatoon and getting shot. And my mom said, no, it wasn't the airport in Saskatoon. And I didn't understand what all this fuss was about. And one thing I kept hearing was the name Kennedy. I was hearing that name over and over and over. And then the phone was ringing. I remember my mom talked to my dad. And they were talking about it. I just remember everybody was so serious. And my sister was there. Or she got home from school. She was in grade 10. She got home from school. And she heard about it. I had no idea what any of this stuff was about. Not a clue. So my mom was very upset about this. Now, my viewer who suggested I talk about this was something I was going to cover anyway. I wasn't sure if I would just do the Kennedy assassination or if I'd do it in conjunction with the moon landing or different events in my life. But because there's so much information here, I think doing the Kennedy thing would just be enough. And the one thing my viewer wanted to know was, how did Canadians feel about that? How were they affected by it? What was their reaction? Well, pretty much the same as everybody else. Now, to me, as a kid, it didn't mean anything, and I didn't understand what was going on, but I could see my parents were very, very upset about it. When my dad got home from work, that's all they're talking about. The TV was on. My dad was sitting on the chair smoking his pipe, staring at the TV. My sister would be in the living room. My other sister was there. My mom would come in, she'd have her arms folded, she'd be staring at the TV. She'd go back and stir the gravy, come back in, stare at the TV, go back, flip the pork chops over, come back, stare at the TV, just waiting for updates. In the meantime, I'm wondering what happened to my Yogi Bear and my Flintstones and everything else. So, everybody just kept talking about President Kennedy. Now, my dad worked for the Saskatchewan Farmers Union. He was director. His boss was the president. His name was Roy, very, very big man. Very nice man. But he's the type of person that, seemed like he'd be president because you command a lot of respect. So I said, is this president? Is this like Dad's boss, Roy? They said, oh, no, it's much more important than that. Way more important. So I was trying to understand who the president was. And they kept saying he's the president of the United States. This chicken is fantastic. So I didn't know what the United States was. I didn't know what Canada was. When we moved to Saskatoon in 1962, from our little hamlet, a stone's throw from the Montana border, it was a city, more than 100,000, and it was growing very quickly. My parents kept saying it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. And I said, is it as big as Canada? Yeah. Because I didn't understand what Canada was. I said, oh no, it'll never be as big as Canada, because I thought Canada was like another city or something. So I didn't understand what Canada was. I didn't understand what the United States was. So my sister, the one in grade 10, got an atlas. And she showed me. She showed me these different countries. United States, Canada, United States, Mexico, Russia or Soviet Union, what it was called at the time. And she said, this is where we live. That started to make more sense. And she showed me the United States. And she said, President Kennedy was the leader of that country. He was the president of that country. So then I could start to see the importance of who this person was. Now my dad was very angry because he liked Kennedy. My mom felt the same way. I didn't really see it so much, but over the years I would learn how they felt about the Kennedys. Most of them, but they really liked John Kennedy. They liked President Kennedy. You have to understand, back in those days, my parents' generation, politicians were kind of like rock stars of today. They really looked up to politicians. I had heard the name Churchill, but I didn't know who he was. But we had a Churchill shopping center, so that name was familiar. My dad hated the prime minister at the time. I think it was John Diefenbaker, maybe, or something like that. But anyways, he didn't like him, and he'd always be yelling at the TV, and I thought he was yelling at the guy who was reporting the news, But he really liked Kennedy, as did my mom. And they were very upset over the whole thing. said, we had one child. And so I kept hearing the name Kennedy. I remember we had a Kennedy Street not far from where we lived, so I kind of, the name sounded kind of familiar in that respect, but I'd never heard of President Kennedy. So that's all I heard about all day long was Kennedy. But soon, I would hear another name. That other name was Oswald. On TV, it was either Lee Oswald, Harvey Oswald, or Lee Harvey Oswald. They kept, updating the news that they had made an arrest and this kind of thing. I remember my parents saying that. They were glad they'd caught somebody. Now, my dad was one of these people. If he thought you were guilty, you were guilty. And the only thing left was a short rope and a high tree. So this went on all day, all night. Pretty much the same thing, the whole time. So the next day is Saturday. And that time of year in Saskatoon is pretty cold out. So I wasn't really playing outside too much. And everybody's glued to the TV as usual. And all of a sudden, there's a new development. And actually, I can't remember if it was that day or the next day. But I just remember it wasn't long before they announced that this guy, Lee Oswald, himself had been shot. Now, I'm not sure what my parents thought. Because as much as they felt he was guilty, I think everybody wants some answers. And when they announced that Oswald had passed away from being shot, the questions remained, but the answers died with them. So anyways, as time went on, turns out the guy named Jack Ruby was the guy who shot Oswald. like I said, I thought that was probably a good thing, because he killed the bad guy. I didn't understand the implications. You know, I mean, let's be honest, Oswald, I have to say it this way because I'm on YouTube, but he allegedly shot Kennedy. And I'm not getting any kind of conspiracy stuff or nothing like that, but as a kid, back then as a 6.5-year-old, he was the bad guy, somebody shot him, and I thought that was good. I remember a number of years later, I think it was in '67, my mom heard on the radio that Jack Ruby had died in prison. And she was telling me that. And she said, that's good for him. And I still didn't really get it because I thought that he was the guy that killed the man who killed the president. And of course, it wasn't until I was, older that I, like I said, I began to realize that no, he was not a good guy. So I think President Kennedy was 46 when he died. Now, Oswald, it seems to me, yeah, Kennedy died on November 22nd. I think Oswald died 2 days later. I think he died on the 24th. But I just remember that's all I kept hearing about, So anyway, Kennedy was 46, very young. And I remember eventually the news coverage kind of backed off a bit. But then, when his funeral was on TV, his body was lying in state. They had the flag draped coffin, the horse-drawn cart type thing. I remember seeing that on TV. And I don't remember it because I've seen it on YouTube or different formats like that. I remember because I remember it. I remember watching it on TV. That black and white videotape. See the bare trees, kind of cold out. I remember Jackie, shrouded in black, and little John saluting his dad and his sister. My parents were so upset seeing those little kids, how they lost their dad. Yeah, it really affected a lot of people. Even though, we live in Canada, and of course you don't vote for other countries, but my parents would have voted for Kennedy, I'm sure, if they had lived in the States. Now I know there's a lot of film, colored film, of the funeral procession. But everything we watched on TV was black and white videotape. And of course, the quality of the videotape in '63 is not as good as it became later. But it was such a bizarre event. And of course, as time went on, the Abraham Zapruder film would come to light. Now, I don't remember seeing that until sometime later. And like I said, I'd never heard of Kennedy up until that day that he was assassinated. So it was one of those events in my life that I remember parts of it very vividly. You know, very vividly. And to answer my viewer's question, how Canadians felt, well, a lot of us just felt the same way a lot of people did, just very, well, I guess my parents were pretty upset about it. I remember when I went back to school in 2007 to finish my grade 12. I had to write an essay on past events. And I wrote about that. Because like I said, it was something I remembered. So anyway, that was pretty much it for the Kennedy assassination. Now, that was in 1963. In April of 1968, I went to school. I was in grade 5. One of the girls got up and I read like a prepared paragraph or so. I don't know if she wrote it herself or if the teacher wrote it and asked her to read it. Excuse me. But she got up to the front of the class and informed everybody that Martin Luther King had been assassinated. Oh, I'd never heard of Martin Luther King. But of course, I'll later find out that he was a civil rights leader who believed in nonviolent protest. I think he was only about 39 years old. No. Once again, my parents were quite upset over that. And it didn't get as much coverage on the news, but it got a lot. Because I was older, I was more aware. At that point, I was 11 years old. But I remember we talked about Martin Luther King in school a little bit. Learned a bit about him. Because like I said, I had no idea who he was. months later in June, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. I remember the phone rang. It was my dad. My mom said, "Oh, okay." She hangs up the phone, runs into the living room, turns on that big console, the radio. I go, "What, Mom? What?" She goes, "Robert Kennedy was shot." It was almost like assassinations were becoming a thing, you know, it was weird. Now, once again, my parents really liked Robert Kennedy. Now, he was shot, but unlike his brother, he was alive for a little while. He didn't die instantly. And I remember seeing a headline in the newspaper, and had a picture of Robert Kennedy. You could sort of see an out of focus picture of him in the background in a hospital bed. And the headline said, "RFK fights for life, but hope dwindles." So there wasn't much chance he was going to survive. I remember by then it was a beautiful summer evening. It was in June, getting towards the end of school. And my friend, next door neighbor friend, who was 3 years older than me, we went to the same school. I was grade 5, he was grade 8. And we were going to meet up with his friend Woody, who was also in grade 8. And we were going to smoke some cigarettes. Now, usually when we smoke cigarettes, you know, we'd smoke a cigarette, we'd ducking and hiding, you know. But we met Woody in front of the school. Of course, everybody had gone home by then. There's nobody there. And we met out there, and Woody had a pack of cigarettes. He gives us each a cigarette, and we light up. Now, normally, you know, if we had a cigarette, it'd be like one person would have a cigarette. About 6 of us would take a couple puffs and whatever. But here I was. I had my own cigarette, and so we just started walking up the street, trying to act like adults, talking about adult stuff. I'm talking about Robert Kennedy. And I remember being really kind of nervous because I had that cigarette in my hand. I thought, what if I get caught? Well, but I remember talking about Robert Kennedy. Woody said he didn't think he was going to make it. And I guess we kind of agreed. They gave me way too many French fries. Robert Kennedy got a lot of coverage as well. And my parents saw Robert Kennedy. You know, they say the good die young. They kind of thought he kind of summed that up. You know, they thought he was a very good man. Maybe not that he'd never become president, but he seemed to do a lot for the people. So it's kind of course, Robert Kennedy passed away. And I know my parents, like President Kennedy and his brother, I'm not sure they felt about the rest of the family, but they really liked those two. I keep dropping chicken pieces here. You know, it's weird when things like that happen. When you're a kid. And surprisingly, I got a really good memory for a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of events that have happened in my lifetime. I was going to combine this with some other deaths of notable people, but I'll do that later because I find just these three people have taken up quite a bit of time already. Well, you're not going to believe this, my friends. I don't think I can eat my dessert. That lovely no-bake peanut butter bar. You have to check out my video on my cooking channel. I'll put the link below here. I've got a few more people to talk about, not today in this video, but in future videos. Kind of like, you know, where were you when this happened, and that sort of thing. And of course, as time went on, there's more that I remember even more vividly because I was older. You know, like for instance, Elvis Presley and John Lennon and Princess Di and those people, you know. Like I said, I'd never heard of Kennedy or knew who he was or what he was until all that happened. Then, of course, that was all I heard about. But it was such a huge event in my time. I want my viewers never said it was 60 years. I couldn't believe it. I remember when they had the 25th anniversary of Kennedy, which was in '88, I believe. And I think Governor Connolly was still alive then. They interviewed him. And some of the deputies that had escorted Oswald and this kind of thing. Some of these people were still alive, you know. And that seems like yesterday. The biscuits are good, but Popeyes are better. Wow, I'm stuffed, my friends. Stuffed. But the Zapruder film, you know, isn't it funny? Abraham Zapruder, he goes there to see Kennedy, he runs home to get his Super 8 or whatever his film camera was, runs back, and he's shooting that as it's going by. And there's that one film that was just so analyzed, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It just shows the whole thing. And yet, if that had happened, 20 years later, everybody would have been there with their video cameras. Been all kinds of angles. Nowadays, everybody and their dog would have their phone out. There'd be all kinds of angles and, stuff like that. Maybe even some drone footage or GoPros and security camera. Just think of all the footage there'd be. Yeah, back then. Other people took pictures, still pictures. But it's so weird watching that. Because you see a man who's riding his motorcade, waving to people, has no idea that within, 15 or 30 seconds or whatever, he's gonna die, And it was such a huge event. Because we're talking about, at that time, I think it's safe to say Kennedy was probably the most powerful man in the world. And he's assassinated in broad daylight. In front of people in a motorcade, like a parade route type thing. It was crazy. That's something you think you'd see in a movie or something. But wow. It was very bizarre. Somebody has a noisy car. For some reason, I had to wait a long time for this chicken. I've never had to wait this long for fast food my whole life. I think what happened was when I got there, there's two skip the dishes guys. They must have cleaned them out or something, but I guess I had to go get some more chickens and pluck them or something. But anyways, that was very good. I am stuffed, and I'm sorry I can't eat my delicious, yummy peanut butter bar. I hope you check that out. I mean, you could train a monkey to make that. I mean, really, it's, I think, 5 ingredients. I mean, you got the butter, the peanut butter, icing, sugar, grain, wafer crumbs, and chocolate to put on top, Put in the fridge. Bob's your uncle, You could, like I say, you could train your dog to do it. I'm sorry, my friends can't eat anymore. Left a bit of a mess here. Anyways, I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll be doing more videos like this. And when I do one on, the next one will probably be how was John Lennon and Princess Di. I got a bit of a surprise for you on that one. Something you might find interesting. Oh, that water's good. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, my friends. I love you very much. You take care. We'll see you next time. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. Keep on commenting. And if you want shout outs, hit me up. When you do, ask for a shout out, ask for it in my ASMR channel, because my cooking channel, I mean, it's fine to do it there, but my cooking channel, I go there maybe a couple times a week. As for my ASMR channel, I'm in there every day, sometimes several times a day, just checking on things and whatever, and answering comments. And okay, so anytime you want, you hit me up for a shout out, or if you got ideas, suggestions, I may not do it, but then who knows? I write them down in my black book that I showed you, along with a few phone numbers. No, I don't. But anyways, you take care, my friends. I love you all, and we'll see you next time. Okay.